Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to give you all one more minute. Well, for the people that aren't on here yet, I'll give an extra minute just to see if anyone else is wanting to start this webinar today, and then we will go ahead and kick it off. But thank you all for joining us. And if you're on the West Coast, I hope this isn't too early for a DC, but you know what? It's Friday. We need all the caffeine that we can have today.
It's noon. It's noon. It's perfectly fine.
It's my lunchtime Diet Coke. Okay. All right, well, it's 3:02 and let's get this started because for those of you who have signed on today, it sounds like you're looking to prevent some headaches from employee scheduling. And luckily, we do have the cure for that today with some compliance tips and then as well as the actual solution that we have within our software. And so, welcome to today's webinar of how to prevent headaches from healthcare employee scheduling. Let me make that specific. Today's host is me, Taylor, the product marketing manager here at HR for Health. And our main speaker today who's going to be presenting is Ryann. And she is our product specialist here at HR for Health. And she's an HR software expert and a vital member of the HR for Health team. She is skilled at increasing efficiency and effectiveness for our healthcare customers. Her secret weapon is finding ways to put HR on autopilot so that way it does all the work for you and you don't even have to think about it or worry about being compliant. And so before I hand it to her, I'm going to walk you through this quick agenda and let you know that first we're going to start off with how to even use the employee scheduler. And on top of walking through each of those features, we want to explain the why behind each of them. So why did we put this feature here? Why does it even matter? Why is this something that helps you with compliance? Instead of just telling you what to do, we're going to tell you why we put the thought into it within our software. And we're going to show you how this makes your life easier. And then at the very end, we will answer your questions live. But I do want to make a note that if you have a question that comes up, I don't know if you're like me, but my brain has melted because of social media. So I will forget any sort of thought or question that comes to my mind quickly. And if you experience that, please put that in the chat and go ahead and send it. We'll make sure to answer it at the very end and make sure that you feel heard and that we can answer anything that comes up for you as we're explaining the software and explaining the compliance behind each of these pieces. So with that, I'm going to stop my yapping and hand it over to Ryann.
Thank you, Taylor. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Super excited to go over the employee scheduler, one of my favorite features. But I will go ahead and before we get started, I have a couple questions for you guys, and you can just add your answers into the chat. But what are you currently using for scheduling your employees? Are you using HR for Health Scheduler, which if you are, great job. You'll just learn more today. Another scheduling tool, are you manually scheduling using like Excel sheets, paper, etc.? Or do you have no process at all? I'll give you guys a couple seconds to go ahead and put in your information. There's no wrong answers either. Just curious. See, Erin, you're using Excel. Okay, okay. Hopefully we can figure out a way to get you on the employee scheduler and make your life easier. All right. Next question. Do you have a method for tracking employee attendance? So things like tardiness, no-shows, either yes, we track attendance digitally, or it's manual, or no, you are not currently tracking attendance. Give you a couple seconds here, get your answers in. No shame either way. All right. Thank you. So next we're going to go ahead and walk through how to actually use the employee scheduler, because I think being able to see how it actually is used is going to be helpful in determining whether or not you want to actually use it. That's really a big indicator there. So I am going to go ahead and get us here into HR for Health, and we'll get started. So the first thing that we're going to go over is actually an overview of the scheduler. And there's three different options for viewing your employee schedule. You have your week view. The week view, in my opinion, is the best way to manage the schedule, because you're able to edit shifts, schedule a shift, move a shift to another employee or an open for other employees to see or pick up. It's a great way to manage schedule conflicts and will be the place to go pretty much most of the time. Also, where you will likely be able to create your schedule in general. So this is the week view. Next, you have the day view. So you can see our filters here. You've got week, day, month. So we'll go ahead and click day view. And day view is where you will have a more granular view for a specific day. You will see the employees' start time for their shift, their end time, if they have any meal breaks within their shift. You can see their shift notes as well. So it just gives you that big breakdown. And then lastly, you have your month view. And your month view is a good view to see an overview for the month, and maybe the easiest way for you to see who is on PTO in general. And this is also great for your employees to see who is on PTO before requesting time off, especially in those cases where there is a first come, first serve policy. So you can see all of the different shifts here. These ones have already passed, which is why they're grayed out. You can see any time off. So in gray, you can see that Aaron has been on time off for a couple of weeks. You can see Delwyn has a pending time off request, and then you can see that we are here on the 21st, and we have a couple of scheduled shifts here. Awesome. Next, we are going to go over our filtering options. So you have let's go back to week view. So you have your date range filter. This is going to allow you to pick specific weeks to view. You have your employee filter here, and this will allow you to see, a specific employee schedule. So let's just deselect someone here, and I'm actually going to select Aaron. Oh, looks like he's on time off. I can select Allie. And then I can, of course, go back and select all employees. Why this filter is great, it's obviously if you want to see just one employee schedule, it can be useful. Or if you want to publish a schedule for just one employee, you can select that one employee in particular and then publish their specific schedule. Next, you have your positions filter. So this is going to filter based on the assigned job descriptions that your employees have, so their specific job description. So one thing to note here is if you're currently using Scheduler or you're going to, you want to make sure that your employee is assigned to the correct job description and the most up to date. That way, when you use that filter, it will filter to show them. That way, if you needed to, reassign a registered dental hygienist shift, you can go ahead and just filter out those positions and it would show who is applicable to receive that shift. Next, you have your event filter, and this will allow you to choose to see, excuse me, shifts, conflicts, or time off, which will really just reduce that noise and help you manage those items specifically. Give me 1 second here. My throat is a little scratchy. All right, back to it. All right, and then the last filter that you will see is the location filter. And this is going to be really helpful if you have multi-locations under one FEIN. You're able to actually use this location filter to see who is assigned to a specific location. So let's just say you have location A, B, and C, and you want to see who is going to be working at location C. You can go ahead and choose location C, and it would filter out everyone else. It would still show the shifts. They would just be grayed out so that they wouldn't really, you would know who is actually working at that specific location. But in case you needed to schedule an employee you would see those other shifts as well. So that way there's no conflicts there. All right. The next thing we're going to go ahead and go over is our attendance settings. And this one is pretty huge, I think, in my opinion. So to get to the attendance settings, you'll click settings here. And this is where you can go to, let's see, you can go in order to track employees' attendance based on their scheduled shifts. And you have a couple different options here. So once it's turned on, you have your attendance tracking features, so tardiness tracking and no-show. So we're going to turn on tardiness tracking. And essentially here it'll give you the option to give your employee a grace period. And we have 5 minutes here. What this basically means is if your employee's scheduled shift is for 8 a.m., if they clock in at 8:04, they're good to go. They're not considered tardy. However, if they clock in at 8:05 in like 1 second, they will be considered tardy. And what we will do is we will automatically create that tardy for you, and it will be on the employee's attendance section in their employee section on the left. There's under timekeeping and attendance section where it will track all of those, which is really great because then you have it documented there. And the employee will need to write in a reason of why they were tardy. You will then have the choice to excuse or unexcuse it, which is great documentation. Next, you have your no-show tracking, and this is where you can choose to have no-shows. So you can mark an employee as a no-show after a specific amount of time. So here we have 45 minutes, but you can change it to whatever you want. So for example, 60 minutes. And essentially what this would mean is if your employee was scheduled at 8 a.m. and they did not clock in by 8:59, they would be considered a no-show. And so again, this is really great documentation. And then you have your manager of notifications. So depending on how you like to receive things, you can receive an email notification when tardy. You can receive an email notification when there's a no-show. Keep in mind that you'll still have alerts on your dashboard. So if you're like, yeah, I don't want my email inbox to be bogged down by all of this, you can definitely reduce that noise. And then, of course, you have an option to turn on email notifications if an employee clocks in too early. This is one of my favorite features because oftentimes we hear the question, am I able to make sure that my employee does not clock in before their scheduled shift? So like right at 7 a.m., like is there any way to prevent them from clocking in? While there's no way to prevent them from clocking in from a compliance perspective, you wouldn't want to do that just because if let's just say they get to the office early and a client shows up early, you wouldn't want them to ignore that patient or client. You would want them to interact, which is technically they may be on the job at that point if they're helping them answer questions, things like that. So you want to allow them to be able to clock in, but if you have a policy in place where you're like, hey, I really don't want you to clock in unless it's like 5 minutes before your shift, you can go ahead and get this notification set up. So what this would mean is that if the employee is scheduled for 8 a.m. and they clock in before 7:55, you would get an email notification that they clocked in too early. And this will help avoid any unwanted overtime and help you address those situations so that you can have those conversations and say, hey, like just a reminder, make sure that you're not clocking in too early. All right, next we have the assignment. So you have the option to assign to all employees. The only thing I'll say here is keep in mind that if you have employees who are exempt and do not need to clock in or clock out, you probably don't want to allow them or add them to this list just because you would constantly, if their schedule is on there, you would get notifications if they didn't clock in. So just keep that in mind. You may just want to remove them from that. Or if all of your employees are clocking in and clocking out, you can select the all employees option. And this will just ensure that everybody is being tracked and any new employees that you receive will also be tracked as well. And then we have some fun items here. So display settings. You can go ahead and choose how you want the names displayed on the schedule. Do you want them to be first name, last name, or last name, first name? And then you can color coordinate. If you're like me, I love color coordination. So you can choose what positions or job descriptions have a specific color. All right, we're going to go ahead and save that information. And so now that we've gone over the options, let's kind of recap on why the schedule settings are so important. And really, it's the instant documentation for you and your practice. If the employee is not abiding by their schedule, they will be alerted and you will be alerted. And it's documented in the employee's attendance record in case you need it when making a decision on whether or not you're going to keep the employee or needing to reference it for performance conversations like a performance review at the end of the year. Also, another reason why an office that has employees working the same schedule every week should still have a scheduling feature because you're still getting that instant documentation based on attendance. Alrighty, let's go to our next point, which is how to add shifts. So you can see our schedule here. Let's see. To create a shift, what we're going to do is simply find your employee. You can hover over the day of the week, and then you can click Add Shift. And here you have several options. So you can select from the employee dropdown. Let's just say we have multiple employees who are on the same schedule. Instead of having to duplicate efforts, if you're like, yeah, Sarah and Ryan actually work the same schedule, same position every day, you can go ahead and do their schedule at the same time. You can choose the date. So today we obviously clicked on the 18th, so it's going to pre-populate to that. But you can also choose multiple days of the week. So if I know for a fact they're going to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe even Saturday, I can go ahead and select those days. Next, I can do my shift time. So if I know that they're going to start maybe at 8:15 and then we close at 5:15, I can go ahead and put that in their schedule. And then next we can add in their unpaid meal breaks and rest breaks. So let's just say 30 minutes, and they're going to take it at noon. Maybe the office closes for a specific amount of time, so I can put that closure in there. And then I can go ahead and add rest breaks. And while we're on that topic, let's chat real quick about meal and rest breaks. We often get questions around this subject, mostly about wanting to track meal and rest breaks, which can be tricky because if the system where the employee needs to mark that they've taken their breaks, if they forget to, it can kind of look like you didn't allow them to take them, which is where the scheduler will help you. One thing to note is if you're in a state where meal and rest breaks are required, employers only need to ensure that the employee is aware of their right to take the break. So adding the information into the shift ensures that they can see that those meal and rest breaks are there on their schedule, and they will also get an email of their schedule when it's published and a reminder email on Saturday before their upcoming shifts so that they can reflect back on, the fact that they were provided meal and rest break options. And if they didn't take them, that's really on them. It's also something that you can reflect back on if an employee ever claims that you didn't allow them to take the meal or rest break. So just something to keep in mind. Next, you will select the position. So maybe this is a, lab technician shift, and then we have locations. Ignore all of these different locations. This is a test account, a demo, so lots of crazy things in here, but we're going to say Walnut Creek. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and add in any shift notes. So for example, if there is a scheduled lunch and learn or a meeting, you can put that in here. Or if you want the person to take out the trash or clean up their station, you can add that in as well. And then once ready, you just go ahead and click add. It will give you a confirmation that you're adding shifts for 2 employees. If you hover over it, you can see their names and you can just click add. Awesome. Let's see here. Let's go to the next thing. So we're going to go over how to copy shifts. So once a shift is added, you can then copy and paste it, which is super helpful if you have, again, 2 employees with the same schedule. So you can either use the method that we just did, or we have this really cool method where you can actually select specific shifts. You can right click copy, and then you can go to a different employee. So we're going to say Emily, and you can go ahead and paste it. It's really cool. You can do it at different weeks. It could be a singular shift. So if I'm like, yeah, no, I just want this one. Oops, I repasted it. Don't do that. I would just go in and delete those. But essentially, you can just copy one of those shifts. So we'll take this one, we'll click copy, and then we're going to paste it to Jack over here. So depending on how tech savvy you are, what your method to the madness is, you have some options there. Once your schedule is ready, you can publish it, and then you can have the option to copy that schedule into future weeks. So we'll go ahead and show how to do that here. So we'll go ahead and click publish. And it's going to confirm with you that you're publishing for a specific amount of employees. So anybody that is not within there wouldn't be able to see their schedule yet. And employees cannot see their schedule until it is published. So it does give you time to work on that schedule prior. Go ahead and publish. And it looks like we're publishing it with 4 different schedule conflicts, which we'll go over here shortly. All right. So we went ahead and published. We do have the option as well to copy shifts. So let's just say that my schedule is really the same, from week to week. Maybe there's only minor variations like time off. I can go ahead and put this out 8 weeks. I can click copy. And then what it's going to do is it's going to copy it out those 8 weeks. We'll let it load here. Lots of thinking it has to do. Once it's done loading, it will take me to the last week that I copied to. So here we are now at, oh, actually it took me to the second week. So excuse me, take me to the next week. But if I did want to go ahead and copy out farther, I could go out that 8 weeks. I think we're getting close here. Next one. Aha, yeah, this one. So we can go to this week and then we can go ahead and copy those shifts to future weeks as well. So I can keep copying. I can copy out for 6 months, a year. We do have some clients that do that. So you do have that option as well. The only thing that won't happen right away is we won't publish it just in case there's some changes that you want to make. So you would want to go through and publish that specific week. All right, let's go back to this week here. And we are going to go over shift conflicts. So one thing that can be hard to manage if you are not using a scheduling software, so maybe that Excel sheet that you're using, is shift conflicts. So for example, if an employee is scheduled when they are on PTO, or if they have if they're scheduled for a full day, but actually maybe need a few hours off in the morning for an appointment, or maybe there's a holiday or they get scheduled, if there's multiple people handling the schedule, there could be double bookings, things like that. So using the schedule has you covered because we alert you when there is a conflict and it can be resolved before it's too late. So once you see a conflict like this is a conflict, you will have the option to either delete the shift, move it to another employee, or move it to open. And we can see that there's a conflict because here we have employees assigned to President's Day. So we have all of these employees assigned, and it looks like Allie was still given a shift even though it is a holiday. So like I said, in this case, I can either drag and drop it up to open shifts, or if I'm like, yeah, actually Ali was supposed to have that one, I could drag it to him. Or the other option is just to delete it, which if this is a holiday, probably just needs to be deleted, and I can see the conflict here. One thing to note about conflicts as well is that once they happen here, you'll see it on the schedule, but you're also going to get an alert about it. So you should be covered no matter what. And then any shift that is brought into the open category. So let's just say Ali is unable to work on this day. I'm going to move it up to open. If you have multiple office managers in this case, and there's an office manager that is not working that day, they will be able to see the open shift. And once they see it, they will be able to go ahead and tell you whether or not they want to pick up that shift. And they could either verbally tell you, or they could use the HR for Health messaging system to say, hey, I'll take that shift on this date, which is also a good way to have more of a documentation trail. All right. Next, we are going to go over managing time off from the schedule. So another great thing about the schedule feature is that you can manage time off from it itself. So if you're more of a visual person and rather see what an employee's request looks like on a schedule to ensure that there's proper coverage before approving, this will be your new way of approving time off. So simply figure out where the time off requests are. So we have all of these. These are already approved. But here I can see that Delwyn has requested time off and it is pending. So in order to manage that, I can go ahead and click here and I can charge it to a time off bank if they have one, confirm the number of hours, mark if I want that to be paid or not paid, and then go ahead and accept it. And what's nice is that, let's just say he was a dental hygienist, I could use those filters and I can filter out to see all of my dental hygienists in order to see who is taking time off on that day to ensure I'm not approving this before I know that there's actual coverage. All right, we are going to get back to our slideshow here. And now that we've gone over how to actually use those scheduling features, we're just going to do a quick recap. So recapping, viewing the schedule. As a reminder, you have a couple different views. You have your week view, which is best for managing, editing, and creating schedules. You have your day view, which is a detailed look at shifts, breaks, start and end times. You have your month view, which is ideal for tracking PTO and seeing the big picture. We have our filtering options. So your date range filter, if you want to jump to a specific week, your employee filter, where you can view and publish schedules for individual employees, your position filter, which will allow you to see schedules based on job roles to ensure that the descriptions are ensure that the descriptions are updated, but it also ensures that you're looking at the specific people who are assigned to those job descriptions in case you need to reassign a shift to them. You have the event filter, so in case you want to focus just on shifts, just on conflicts, or time off requests, you can go ahead and filter those out, reduce that noise. And then you have your location filter, which will help you manage schedules across multiple locations. Attendance tracking and compliance, my favorite feature. So that attendance tracking being based on scheduled shifts allows you to provide instant documentation for HR compliance, of course, based on scheduled shifts, send alerts for tardiness, absences, and early clock-ins, and helps create an audit trail for performance management. So you have that instant documentation. It's not an emotional thing. If the employee is late, it will automatically show up in their account. Actually creating the schedule. So we went over how to add a shift, and you can customize the shift details like the start and end time, the position, the location, and of course, the most important thing, the meal and rest breaks, which ensure compliance by adding break details into the shift, which is that good for that audit trail, that documentation trail. And then employees also receive those automated schedule email reminders so that they know that they have the right to take those breaks. Next, we have going over copying and publishing the schedule. So as a reminder, this will help you save time by just copying shifts, especially for those accounts those practices that have schedules that are the same from week to week. Obviously, you don't want to spend a ton of time doing the work over and over again if your employees are working the same schedule, but the copying shifts allows you to get that in there quickly. It allows you to copy it up to 8 weeks. And you can extend the schedule beyond the 8 weeks by getting to that last week and then continuing to copy forward. Lastly, we have the managing of conflicts, which is so important because it's going to help you with scheduling issues. So things like the overlapping shifts, PTO conflicts, holiday conflicts, and making sure that employees are not being double booked. Because the last thing that you want is patients that, were supposed to be scheduled and can't be scheduled because an employee is already working with the patient. Next, you have the automatic flag. So if you were to accidentally have a shift conflict, you're able to delete it, you can move it, you can reassign the shift. And really, those conflict alerts just avoid those scheduling errors, making sure that they don't happen. And then we have the managing of time off requests. So the scheduler does allow you to approve and manage PTO directly from the schedule itself. This is great for ensuring adequate staffing before granting time off, because the last thing that you want to do is be short-staffed. It also allows for employees to see approved PTO before making those requests. So if you're on a first come, first serve basis, definitely smaller offices have this. You can have your employee go in and check to make sure that the other employee who has the same position as them is not taking time off at the same time. And then we have, of course, open shifts. So open shifts appear on the schedule for employees to claim. So if you do have a situation where you need to move a shift conflict, you can move it up into open. Employees can then request the shift from you either verbally or using HR for Health messages. And this keeps the scheduling transparent and efficient. All right, so last point here. Why is it great to use the employee scheduler? And really, there's three main things in my eyes: the instant documentation to help with compliance, the ease of managing schedules is number two. And then lastly, it's the transparency for employees, really providing them the information, giving them that information to visualize. And something that I think is very underrated is that employees will be able to view the schedule from anywhere. They can view it from their phone, they can view it, at home. It doesn't have to be in the office. If it's like a printed schedule, typically they have to view it in the office and changes could be made, so it might not be accurate. Whereas with HR for Health's employee scheduler, they can view it from anywhere, which is great because typically when they're like asking for time off or like thinking about taking a vacation, they're usually doing that when they're not at work. So it's great for them to have that access elsewhere. All right, that is it on my end. I'm going to go ahead and kick it back to Taylor.
Perfect. We do have a couple questions too that we got in while you were presenting. So,
Love it.
one, someone asked, can you assign multiple job descriptions?
Yes, you can. So in HR for Health, and actually I will show you guys since we have it here. Let me exit full screen real quick. We're going to go back here. So if you're in HR for Health and you have added an employee in, you can actually add multiple job descriptions when adding somebody into the system. So I'll show you how to do that. Put in a test.
I'll give anyone $10 if they can guess how many test accounts Ryann has made.
I have a lot of test accounts. It's really ridiculous. But here they can go ahead and you can assign as many as you need. So if you do have people who, work multiple positions, you can go ahead and do that. You also can do that after the fact. So if you need to just clean some things up, you can go to documents, go to job descriptions, and you can, of course, ignore all of this noise because this is a test account. But essentially, you can assign multiple job descriptions from here. So I can go ahead and assign Bryn to this one, and then I can go down here and assign her to this one. Really, you got a lot of flexibility there. Great question.
Perfect. And then, can you show us the schedule using the positions view?
Yes. The only thing I will say to that is that, like this is a very messy test account. So when I do filter by position, it might not actually be these people who are assigned to this. So just keep that in mind. But if we go ahead and filter out for administrative assistant, I can see all of my administrative assistants here. And usually there's not duplicate job descriptions. This is, again, a test account, so we play in it a lot. But you can filter out to see who is assigned to that job description. It looks like all of these people here are. So if, for example, Bryn needed to be moved to somebody else, I can go ahead and reassign this to maybe Elof, and then we're good to go. Great
Easy.
question.
Let's see. It looks like that is it for right now. just so everyone knows, if you're still on with us, I see that there's a couple of you. We are still open in the chat if you want to ask a couple of questions before we are done. But on my end, I just want to make sure you all know as well that if this is something you're really interested in, whether you're a current client or someone that is not with us at HR for Health, we would love to answer more of your questions, and we can also take the time on a call with you to take your practice and take any specific questions that you have about your employees, where you're located, how many employees you have, and show you exactly what that would look like on your end so you feel more comfortable when you're getting started on this investment with us and with the HR for Health platform. And I'll double check one more time. It looks like those are all the questions that we have for today. That means Ryann did the best job ever of explaining this, and you made it really fun. I really enjoyed that today, and thank you for breaking it down and especially going over those. I like that you summarized it into like your top 3 reasons why you love the HR for Health employee scheduler. That was awesome.
It's hard to narrow it down. There's a lot of things that it can do for you.
Oh, wait, there's one more in. I see a current line in the chat. What is the additional cost? We are signed up with HR for Health. Exclamation point. I'm going to take that as you love us too. Let's see.
That is, do you have it, Taylor?
They said we do love you. Thank you. I needed those affirmations today. Let's see. I'm pulling up our pricing page because I don't have it on hand right now. So with the employee scheduler, it's going to start at $10 a month, and it goes up, I think, based off of groups of employees, right? So 1 through 10, it's X amount, and then 10 through 20, it's another amount. Let me learn more. Let me double check.
I think you're right on that.
You know what? We should have that memorized. It's a little bit.
We can also send you the pricing after this as well, just so you can look it over, think about it, not have to worry about it too much.
Let's see. Okay. So for 1 to 7 employees, it's an additional $10 a month. For 8 to 15, it's $25 per month. 16 to 25, $35 a month. 26 to 35, it's $45 a month. And it keeps going up from there. I hope you're not having to deal with over 35 employees, but if you are, the price will increase from there, but we do have a full table that we can send you of what that would look like. And I do see your name and last name in the chat, and that's associated with your email. So I'll make sure to have our team reach out to you directly on that pricing and what it would look like for your specific office. And that is it. Who has ever had that much fun talking about employee scheduling? And I hope that was your natural headache remedy for today and that you enjoyed your time with us. And if you're looking to get started and you aren't a current client, go ahead and scan this QR code on the screen so you can book some time to talk with a member on our team. And that doesn't mean it has to be a sales pitch on why HR for Health is the latest and greatest, because it is. But it also is a really good place for you to go and ask questions specifically about HR compliance. How does this apply to your office? Let us assess the risk that you are having in your office right now, whether that be with employee scheduling or anything else HR related. We would love to take the time just to answer your questions and see where you're at and what you need and how we can help you and support you with the best pricing and package possible. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you have additional questions, you can email us at hello@hrforhealth.com, and I will be sending out a copy of the slide deck and a recording of this presentation once I upload it to YouTube when we're done today. So thank you, Ryann, and thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.